I was just wondering if you wanted to, go out sometime.
You want to get a coffee?
Now?
Yes, now.
I'll just hang on.
Dexter, hello, sir. How are you today? Genuinely, how are you doing today? Because the world is a mess always. So how are you?
The world is a mess. I'm all right. I'm hungry, so I'm eating just a little bit of carrot with some hummus on it. But other than that, I'm really good. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad, and I support you eating carrots and hummus. We all need snacks at every point during the day, so I fully support you in this endeavor.
I will snack no more. You have my undivided attention.
Well, and I'm excited for that because I'm so excited to talk to you about this film because Ghosted was so much fun. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I want to ask first and foremost about how you approach a movie like this, right? Because the first 30, 40 minutes, it's classic rom-com. It's it's the rom-coms of old. It's great. And then the switch flips and it turns into action rom-com. So do you approach this as two separate movies? Do you how do you find the balance in these tones?
Well, that was the worrying thing or the challenging part of it. Certainly not worrying. Is how do you maintain that kind of integrity throughout? That it's the same movie. It doesn't suddenly change into a different film. I didn't approach it that it was two different ideas or two different movies. I really much wanted to blend what we had, and I think the part of the strength of it or the key of it was the authenticity of that initial meeting, that meet cute as they call it. It's a phrase we don't actually have in England, but I'm a fay with it now. But that. You set up a very real and authentic relationship initially where these people are genuinely connecting or misunderstanding one another and, kind of figuring it out. Because I think all of us have had a relationship or ventured down that road, and some have failed and some have been awkward in the beginning or they've been brilliant. And, we all... So I don't think you can get away with fooling the audience and sort of taking shortcuts and just going, they get on together, that's great. It was really important to me that we took the time to see that it was real or as genuine as we could. And I think we carried that through for the rest of the film. So that's why Evans's reactions to the extreme situations that he finds himself in are as genuine as possible as well. If he's Captain America, of course he would jump in and save everybody, but he's not. He's a farmer from, Virginia, and so he gets paralyzed with fear, which is rather funny because it's Chris Evans.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that because that's all I could think about when I was watching him. It's just so funny seeing him in this nerdy kind of role where he's very out of his element. Are there any points where behind the scenes you're directing, do you ever have to tell Chris Evans hey, you're not supposed to be an action star right now. You need to be worse at this because he's not supposed to know what he's doing because he's got experience. Did you ever have to direct Chris Evans to hey, be worse at your job right now?
That's an interesting idea. I mean, no is the truth of it, but only in that he and I were very clear right from the outset. And you've got to remember Chris is a producer on the movie, so he knew very much what he wanted to achieve going in. And it was just about, in fact, more about how can we, in fact, amp that up? How can we, not that, look, when it came to certain fight sequences, he was brilliant and hands-on and had incredible ideas, but he was more of a spectator than he was. I mean, he does have a fight on the jet with Mike Moe. There's a really good fight with him and Mike Moe, I think, at the end. But it was, no, he was very aware of hey, I can't emerge too much as that guy. And so things like, when Ana says to him, are you ready? And he says, for what? No, I'm not ready, absolutely. And then she goes, that all comes out actually of discussions and fun we're having on set, and trying to just push that envelope even further with Chris, because Chris has a great comic timing. He has not only a great actor dramatically, but he's got a really good comic sense. And once we found Cole's weakness, we exploited it whenever we had the opportunity.
And it was so fun to watch. I think I have exactly one bone to pick with this movie, Dexter. Yes. And I don't know if it was a Chris decision. I don't know if it was you. How are you going to tease Chris Evans going up on stage and singing and then not have it happen? We were so close to getting a musical number from him, and then we didn't. I'm sad about it.
I appreciate that. Me too. But the executive decision was made, and Chris and I talked about it. And I was it's either there's an opportunity for him to get up there and do this thing, and he's he wouldn't do it though. We've got to show that he's a man without courage who doesn't take risks. And if he gets up there and sings in front of her now, at this early stage, you'd be like, oh, well, he's a go. He takes risks. He does. And we were like, that's right. We've got to make the smart decision. And so I was like, huh. And then Anna goes, I'll do it. And I was like, even better. Okay. And we only used a tiny little bit of it, It was more about showing about how unwilling Chris's character is to take risks. He's just risk averse. And that, I think, actually in the long run pays off.
All right, I'll give you that. I can flow with letting logic of the movie work. I'm just saying the man is supposedly playing Gene Kelly, so like it would have been great. But I get it. I get what you're saying.
And when he does play Gene Kelly, you'll get the full singing and dancing Chris. You'll not just one scene. You'll get the whole thing, I would imagine. So.
Absolutely. Well, so I'm curious from your perspective, when you have a movie like this, when you've got Chris Evans and Ana De Armas as your lead, there might be a temptation to make this kind of a theatrical premiere rather than a streaming premiere. Were you involved in that conversation at all?
Well, obviously I pushed for that as the director, and I make a theatrical film. This is my first streaming film as such. So, but I think that's about scale and just how you approach it as the filmmaker. Of course, they know I'm going to hit that, but then what we're in is a time when there's more than one platform to get films out on. What's going to be great about Ghost is that on the 21st, on your Apple TV Plus, that everyone across the world can go click, and if they know about it and they're interested, and they'll all see it, and that is equally as exciting as people getting a babysitter and deciding to go on a date and having a meal first and then going to a movie, which is fantastic. I don't think that'll ever go away. I just think for this particular moment, it'd be really good to have a film that just like crosses all of those platforms, and maybe hopefully a lot of people will, hopefully the national grid will shut down, because everyone on the 21st will be turning on their Apple TV Plus.